This is my first time that I tried hiking up a mountain. My brother and RK, they had both done this mountain a handful of times, so they had experience, but it was my first time tagging along. We didn't get to the base of the mountain until 10 o'clock in the morning, which meant, which we had originally planned for about 8 o'clock or like 7:30, something like that, so which meant that we would have to make it up the mountain and down the mountain in about 6 hours. Because 4 o'clock is when the sun is starting to go down and get dark. Previous to this point, RK, he's pretty injured because he injured his knee, so he was having to limp up pretty much the whole mountain. And at this point, he could only walk like a couple steps and take a break. So me and this other guy, Adam, we decided that for the last half mile to try to see if we can summit the mountain and get back down before the sun would set. Because at this point, it was probably about like 2:30 or like 2:15. So we decided to summit the mountain. We tried waiting at the mountain for like 15 minutes, but at this point it was blowing like 70, 80 miles per hour winds. Our body heat was like quickly like leaving us. So we had to try to venture back down. When we were going down to the trail, we ran back into Tristan and RK. They said that they were going to try to go back up to try to go to the summit themselves, and they asked us to wait for them. So waiting in that kind of wind is very difficult. They said that we should probably wait behind some rocks, but the rocks weren't very good shelter, so we decided to try to proceed down the mountain at a very slow pace. And we came to a trail split. I thought for some reason that there was like a right and left. I thought for some reason that the way we had come up the mountain was at an angle and then take a turn. And I thought we'd have to continue on going at an angle. So we ended up going, because of my erroneous judgment, we ended up going down Tuckerman's Trail rather than Lion's Head, which is where we had come up. We were following the little rock piles that signify a checkpoint for the trail. Because of the wind blowing the snow, it was complete like whiteout, and you could only see about like 10 to 15 feet in front of you. And like we had lost track of the next marker for the trail, and at this point we had seen like a footprint in the ground and like with a pole prints as well, and we decided that those would probably lead us to some place that is safe. So we were following these footprints, and like the snow got lighter and lighter, and like I got more and more nervous, and like I had a feeling of like dread overcome me. We still went on and followed these footprints. Probably for like a couple hundred yards, and then that is when it all happened. Adam was about like 4 feet in front of me. I had goggles on, so I couldn't really see very much, but I saw like a whole horizon that I could see just start give way and move, kind of like a tectonic plate was like shifting underneath me. And then I just said like, "Oh shit." And like that's the last thing that Adam remembers hearing from me. At that point, when the avalanche had happened, I was like in a very zen state of mind. Like I was not afraid. I had let myself I had no like emotions. I just I just let everything happen to me in its own way. I had one moment of clarity during my tumble down the ravine. I knew that if I stopped myself in that one moment, I would be fine. So I was tumbling down, and like I just did like a somersault, like just like did a quick roll over on my shoulder in order to get my feet first when I was going down the mountain. And then I saw like this kind of like a big bush coming towards me very fast, and I put out my foot and like locked into it, and so that my legs stopped me coming into that, and then try to maybe grab onto it. Not exactly sure, but I know that after that I had also been scraped in my face from the bush, and I hit my head again. We fell about like 80 feet vertical drop, so we tumbled down into a ravine, and the ravine has like a slope of probably about 65 degrees, so we tumbled down the ravine. So for the next half hour I had like very few thoughts, but I just had one lingering thought that I was not alone. I didn't know like who I was or what had happened, but I just knew that like someone else was in the same situation. So I ended up venturing down the mountain, down the ravine a little further, calling out if that person was okay and where they were. And it turns out that he was like about like 150 yards away from me, and he was lying down. The avalanche had taken him down all the way down the ravine. His arm was like broken at a pretty bad angle. He had also like fractured a lower vertebrae, and he had like dislocated his shoulder. So we decided to try to hike back up the ravine a little way to see exactly what had happened and to see if we could make it back to the trail. We had lost a lot of our equipment that is usually meant for hiking. We had lost our ice axe. We lost our little things to our shoes that go into the ground. They're called microspikes that give you traction. So we lost all of that stuff. And so I had to like dig my feet in each step and like dig them into make it a hole, so Adam would be able to easily climb up, because he was so injured that he could only like make minuscule movements. We ended up venturing up the ravine about 200 yards, and at this point we were pretty lucky that we heard my older brother's voice. He was yelling to us. Luckily he had followed our footprints, both when we took the wrong path and then when we ventured off the path, and he followed our footprints to a place where all the snow was missing. So he pieced it together in his head that an avalanche had happened, and he tried to make it down the ravine, but he couldn't because it was so, it's like 80 feet vertical fall. He couldn't make it. So he decided to try to get help, and he had to go back up the mountain and climb down the other side. So this meant that Adam and I would have to wait for a long time. We situated ourselves right in front of a bush, so we would not like slide down the mountain, and then we cuddled together, and we were like that in that position for like 7 hours before people came and we were able to come down. I definitely thought that like that might be the point where my life would like end, and like I wasn't sure if Tristan knew where we were or the people knew where we were. I thought we would be lost. I thought practically that we would have to wait till morning for the sun to rise in order to descend the mountain on ourselves. So I prepared myself for that sort of situation mentally, because it was like pitch black at this time. But for a while I had actually given up hope. Like Adam was the one that was pretty sure that the rescue efforts would be put into place, and that this happens probably pretty often for Mount Washington. He said that again and again, but for some reason I just doubted it. I just sort of like I just waited passively. But I also kind of thought that, if this is the way that I would leave the world, then there's probably much worse ways to do it than on a mountain in a beautiful place. And I wasn't at all afraid of it necessarily, but I wasn't welcoming it. I think it gives me an opportunity to really reevaluate my life. I can really put my life into perspective, like before and after. I guess I was given a second chance, and I'm lucky for that. And I realized that I just have a bigger gratitude for this second chance, and I want to try to do it right this time. Before, the type of Conor I was pretty reliable on like alcohol and like weed, and wasn't always picking the healthiest, most like successful choices for himself. I was a bit down on my own personal aspirations and feeling a bit low about like how my self-worth sort of thing. So now I am trying to correct things in order to increase my self-worth and hopefully achieve my aspirations and make my dreams like realized in the future. I try to be more active. I have changed my diet. I don't eat meat anymore, or gluten or dairy, and it makes me much more like energetic in an odd way, and also makes me much more enthusiastic and going into all different passions. I've also I want to be a writer, so I've started writing many different stories, and like that's where I spend most of my time. So I think everyone is kind of defined by their habits in some ways. I think habits is what forms people's characters. I've erased some of the unhealthy habits in my life and replaced them with healthy habits. So that's how I've changed, I think. I don't think you need to confront death at all, or to have a near-death experience to be able to have a new, like more appreciative outlook on life. I think all it needs is like taking a look at yourself and finding what kind of habits you have in your life that cause you harm in the long run, either for your emotions, like your body, or your happiness. It doesn't necessarily mean like you have to confront death. It just means everyone can try to become more appreciative of life just by changing the habits.